Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are unpacking the absolutely vibrant and honestly incredibly relatable story of 13-year-old Maylin, or May Lee. We're heading back to Toronto, Canada. The year is 2002, and we're looking at a story that just beautifully and hilariously captures the messy, totally unpredictable, and sometimes completely overwhelming reality of growing up.
So I want you to just imagine being 13 years old for a second, right? You're dealing with the daily grind of school, you're trying to balance your parents and your friendships, and of course you're harboring this massive, all-consuming dream of seeing your absolute favorite boy band. Now, imagine waking up in the middle of all that teenage stress and excitement as a giant red panda. I know, it sounds completely absurd, right? But that is exactly what happens to May. Her totally normal teenage life gets turned completely upside down by this magical transformation, and it forces her to confront exactly who she is. But hey, to understand how we even get to that chaotic point, we really need to look at her baseline life first.
Section 1. The Perfect Daughter. May's Double Life. Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly we can map out the two competing halves of May's existence. It's almost like a giant puzzle. On one side, we have the perfect daughter. May is confident, she's hardworking, she lives with her mom, Ming, and her dad, Jin, and a huge chunk of her life involves helping run their family's Chinese temple. She absolutely adores her parents, but her mother, Ming, well, she's extremely protective and incredibly strict. Because of that, May is just constantly working to make her mom proud, twisting herself into knots, trying to be exactly what her family needs. But then, you look at the other side. Underneath that flawless exterior is just your typical 13-year-old girl. She's secretly drawing crushes in her notebook, hanging out with her best friends Miriam, Priya, and Abby, and sharing this massive, totally all-consuming obsession with the boy band Four Town. So she's living this total double life, desperately trying to keep these two worlds completely separated. But you know, a perfectly balanced double life rarely stays balanced for long, especially when you're 13.
Section 2. Enter the Red Panda. A magical transformation.
So, the collision of May's two worlds happens through this really rapid, escalating series of events, and it starts innocently enough. Step 1, May has a slightly embarrassing dream about Devin, a teen who works at the local convenience store, and she starts secretly drawing pictures of him, imagining these romantic little moments. Normal teenager stuff, right? Well, then we hit step 2. Her mother, Ming, finds the secret drawings. Ming completely misunderstands the situation, and in this fiercely protective and very public move, she actually goes and confronts Devin. Which brings us to step 3. May is just hit with this tidal wave of extreme embarrassment and anger. I mean, it is literally the ultimate teenage nightmare. And it's that intense emotional spike that triggers step 4. The very next morning, May wakes up, not as herself, but as a huge, fluffy red panda. She totally panics, initially terrified that something is horribly physically wrong with her. Actually, it's only when she finally catches her breath and calms down that she poofs back into her human form.
So what exactly is happening here? Well, the Red Panda is a magical transformation triggered specifically by strong emotions. But for our explainer today, it is absolutely crucial to recognize that this serves as a brilliant, powerful metaphor for puberty and all those unregulated teenage feelings. The giant panda represents the messy, uncontrollable reality of growing up, just made completely visible. Whenever Me feels a massive surge of emotion, whether that's anger, excitement, or panic, boom, out comes the panda. And Me quickly learns that she isn't alone in this experience. To understand why, we need to zoom out from her personal crisis and look at the ancestral secret behind all of this.
Section 3. The Ancestral Secret. A Generational Gift. And this brilliantly illustrates how May's current struggle is actually a heavy generational burden. If we look back many generations ago, we find May's ancestor, Sun Yi. Sun Yi was actually given this magical ability to transform into a red panda specifically to protect her family. So, originally, it was a gift. Over the years, the women in her family have all inherited this powerful ability, and tracking that directly to Toronto in 2002, the power naturally manifests in 13-year-old May. It's a family trait passed all the way down from mother to daughter. Of course, once the secret is out in the open with her parents, they immediately introduce a plan, and this plan is entirely focused on returning May to her baseline of perfection. The family intends to perform a special ritual during an upcoming celestial event known as the Red Moon. The singular goal of this ritual? To permanently seal away the panda spirit. Period. And May, who is just desperate to regain control and remain the perfect daughter her mother expects, she readily agrees. She wants nothing more than to lock that panda away and pretend the whole shebang never happened. But, as May tried to just keep her head down and wait for the ritual, her friends alter the trajectory entirely. Section 4. Rebellion and Boy Bands. The Four-Town Concert.
See, despite her very best efforts to hide it, May's friends end up discovering her fuzzy secret. But instead of being freaked out or rejecting her, they have the exact opposite reaction. They think her panda form is completely adorable. Miriam, Priya, and Abby just offer her this unconditional support. They actually help her accept this brand new side of herself. May even begins to truly enjoy being a red panda. And leaning into her new, unique popularity at school, she uses her panda form to hustle and raise money so they can all afford tickets to that Four-Town concert.
But this newfound acceptance sets up a monumental choice as the concert gets closer. Should May obey her mother, go through with the ritual, and permanently seal away the panda? Or should she embrace this strange yet totally vibrant part of herself? May starts to realize a really profound truth here. She doesn't want to spend the rest of her life hiding her genuine emotions and changing who she is just to please the people around her. This internal realization inevitably leads to a massive external clash, which brings us to the climax of the story.
Section 5. The Generational Trauma. A Mother's Struggle.
So May makes her choice. She disobeys her mom and secretly sneaks out to attend the Four-Town concert with her friends. But when Ming discovers this betrayal, wow, the fallout is spectacular. Ming becomes so emotionally overwhelmed and furiously angry that she transforms into an enormous red panda herself. And I mean massive. Her panda towers over the city. Her totally unbottled emotions end up spreading literal chaos through Toronto as Mee and her family desperately try to stop her. So the crucial point is that this reveals something incredible. This intensely strict, deeply controlled mother actually struggles with the exact same emotional pressures as her daughter.
In the midst of all this wild chaos, May is pulled into this magical spiritual world where time just sort of stands still. And it's right here that she has a defining revelation. May sees her mother not as the strict, powerful parent she's always known, but as someone who also struggled with anger, family expectations, and fear. For the very first time, May sees her mother's deep, deep vulnerability. She realizes, oh wow, Ming went through this exact same painful process. And she learns that above all else, her mother loves her deeply, even if she sometimes makes huge mistakes while trying to be perfect herself. This shared understanding completely redefines the relationship going forward.
Section 6. Keeping the Panda. Accepting True Self.
Let's move to and see how this builds into May's final life-changing decision. When it finally comes time for the Red Moon ritual, May makes the incredibly brave choice to keep her red panda, because she finally understands what it truly represents. It isn't some curse that needs to be hidden away in a box. It represents her unfiltered emotions, her hard-won personal independence, and literally all the beautifully messy parts of growing up. She accepts the panda as a vital, permanent part of her identity.
And you know what? The fallout of this honesty is what finally brings true harmony to their family. Her mother, Ming, eventually learns to accept May for who she truly is, rather than that flawless, perfect image she kept projecting onto her. And so, May continues her life, no longer playing a rigid role. She steps forward as a complete person, a girl, a friend, a daughter, and yes, sometimes a giant red panda.
May's story might be magical, but those underlying themes of emotional regulation and generational trauma, they hit incredibly close to home for absolutely anyone who has ever tried to mold themselves to fit someone else's expectations. Which leaves us with a final thought for today. Are you hiding a giant red panda inside, packing away your true emotions, your weird quirks, or your independence just to please someone else? Let that sit with you as you navigate your own world. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, never be afraid to let your true self out. Catch you next time.